Hello everyone, my name is Wayne Tufek. I'm the IT Security Risk Manager at the University of Melbourne in Australia. We've already had some of the speakers this morning talk about the need to have a common language for risk management, to align the security strategy with the goals of the business, and to determine what controls need to be implemented in line with the organisation's risk tolerance or appetite for risk. What I'm going to talk about this morning is basically a technique to enable you to do that. But to do that with both IT and non-IT people. I'm going to start off with a bit of an overview of IT risk, some of the causes of IT risk, and the business consequences of IT risk, and then we'll run through some examples if we have some time. Make sure we're all on the same page, let's define some things. Risk is the chance of something happening that will have an impact upon objectives. IT risk is the potential for an unplanned event involving a failure or misuse of information and systems to threaten an enterprise objective. Information security risk arises from the use of information systems to store, manage and process an organisation's information assets. IT governance is the process for making IT-related decisions. It is comprised of decision rights and accountability framework that ensures that IT supports the organisation's mission, strategy and values. Risk management is informed decision making and it forms part of good IT governance. What I'm going to basically talk about this morning is my interpretation of some research by a fellow by the name of George Westerman from MIT Sloan in the US. There's a link there to his research, so if you find this interesting and you think it'll be useful in your day-to-day work, then please have a look at the rest of his research. Most IT implementations affect multiple dimensions. Each initiative for IT funding, sourcing and technology shapes an organisation's risk profile over both the short and the long term. There is no such thing as a risk-free or risk-neutral IT decision. Every IT risk has a business consequence. Small incidents can often signal larger problems, and a series of small IT decisions can actually lead to large levels of business risk. Therefore, every IT oversight or investment discussion should consider the decision's impact on the firm's IT risks, not just the firm's strategic needs. What is required is a better way to make decisions, to clarify trade-offs, and let both business and IT people then discuss the risk and determine what's the best outcome. Unfortunately, many decisions are made without considering all risk dimensions. Many organisations fall into patterns where only one type of risk, commonly the risk around availability, is the only one that's discussed or addressed and is prioritised over others. Over time, a series of incremental decisions, each following the organisation's standard practice, leads to a risk profile in which some risks are well controlled, while others have huge exposures. Locally optimised decisions create enterprise risk. Without business involvement, IT managers can make incorrect assumptions about which risks matter most to the business. IT organisations, when aligned to business units, can make decisions that compound over time, especially when you start aggregating risks at an enterprise level. So managing information security risk requires the adoption of an approach that allows rational and informed trade-offs and decision-making about IT risk in business terms. And essentially this is the model. The basic premise of the model is that you work from the bottom up. It's very difficult to address risks at the top of the pyramid if you haven't addressed risks in the lower levels. So from a business standpoint, IT risk affects four key objectives: availability, keeping business processes running, and recovering from failures within acceptable timeframes. It includes things like disaster recovery, backups, are systems available for users when they need them. Access, providing information to the right people while keeping it away from the wrong people. It includes things such as segregation of duties and least privilege. Accuracy, ensuring information is correct, timely, and accurate. Accuracy asks whether the outputs from our systems are correct, so things like such as the financial statements. Which is at the top of the pyramid, deals with matters such as can we change business processes with acceptable cost and speed? How flexible are our systems? How quickly can we integrate an acquisition? How quickly can we divest part of our business? If you're like some managers, you tend to have conversations about these four A's in silos, if ever at all. You never talk about all four together. And what that means that experts in each risk silo tend to focus on optimising their own risks and not optimising across risks. So for example, do you ask yourself about agility risk when the business comes to you with a new initiative? You might veto these requests because the business is introducing unacceptable or unnecessary risks, especially around availability and access. But the security veto can stop or slow changes the business needs. If you don't talk about all 4 risks, then how do you know what risks are really acceptable? So security people must start thinking about all 4 A's. Consider agility as well as access risks, and suggest ways that you can do what the business wants you to do more safely. When security people focus on all 4 A's, the business can move quickly to adopt new mobile devices, exploit social media, mobile applications, or launch new businesses. But unfortunately, too many security people focus only on the risks that matter to them. Westland's research has shown that given a choice, business managers prefer to reduce agility and accuracy risks over access and availability. So discussing IT risks in terms of the 4 A's makes the uncertainty of IT risk more manageable. The 4 A's convert technical issues into business issues, and IT impacts into business impacts. It's often difficult and uncomfortable for business executives to make risky trade-offs among complex technical situations and scenarios. But every effective executive can discuss costs and benefits in terms of the 4 A's. So you make managing IT risk decisions the same way you manage all trade-offs, by making an informed choice amongst business alternatives. So this particular slide here is just basically showing that information security risk management is much more, or IT risk management is much more than complex and just implementing pieces of technology. There are categories of risk factors that impact on IT risk, including information security risk. And there across the bottom you can see the technology, infrastructure, applications and information, people and skills, vendors, policy and process, and organisational factors. So if we look at availability, what am I talking about? We're talking about which business process is the most dependent on IT, what are the consequences if the system is unavailable, what is the cost if a process is down for an hour, half a day, or a whole day. What are our procedures to recover from an interruption and have we tested them thoroughly? Do we know they work? Access? What categories of information will be most damaging if released? What is the likely impact of loss or theft of customer data, of product data, etc.? What categories of information are most important for our organisation's daily success and failure? How do we control, protect and monitor access to our information? How can we ensure that the right people get access to this information as needed and lose it when access is done? Accuracy. Which processes and categories of information carry the highest consequences for inaccuracy? We're talking about financial information, inventory information, customer information. What would our organisation lose if we cannot maintain compliance with government regulations and laws? What could our organisation achieve if we had better information in certain areas? For instance, what if we had a single view of our customers across all business units? How can we improve the way that we gather or manage our information? Agility concerns itself with things such as how well does IT deliver on new projects? How quickly can we acquire a new company, get to market with a new product, or exploit some new type of technology? So let's have a look at an example. Imagine a single sign-on implementation. With access to data, the business must classify information to determine who should have access to what, the applications and the data, how much access is necessary. Policies must be created to balance the needs of the business with security, privacy requirements as well as the requirements of customers and regulators. The IT organisation must have staff who can administer user access systems, and users need to be trained in how the system works. If we have a look at the risks, availability risks probably slightly increased. Failure of a single sign-on may result in an application being unavailable. All risks can be mitigated, obviously we can implement a high availability or resilient platform. Access risks probably slightly increased. There's a single set of credentials which now allows access to multiple systems. But the other side is that users are more likely to follow policy if they only have one account and one password to remember. Another advantage is that security personnel can focus on monitoring a single point of access. Accuracy risk may slightly increase because the security breach will now have much wider consequences from one set of credentials to access multiple systems. Agility risk is probably decreased. So when the systems are provisioned, users can access the systems faster using the same zero-day password, and that improves user satisfaction. Look at another example of moving corporate data to the cloud. Availability risk, probably slightly increased because we're now relying on a third party, we're now relying on a well-functioning working internet connection. Access risk probably increased because they're now moving our intellectual property and confidential information to a third party, and that generates all forms of rich transparency issues. How do we gain assurance that the service provider will look after our information to the same standard that we will or be expected to? Accuracy risk, that's probably changed a little as well because now your data is being housed and stored with a third party. And agility risk is probably decreased. I mean, the business benefits from adopting cloud services are well known in terms of speed, time to market, cost, using the latest technologies.
Thank you, everybody. I think this was great. We did wonderful, and we can give a big hand for all the speakers. So we have next two talks. The next talk is by Om Ahuja on new